I was in my garage when it all started, wiping down the hood of my car, letting the steady rhythm of my hand distract me from the gnawing feeling that had been building in my gut for weeks. Something was off with Emily. I wasn't blind. I wasn't stupid. I just didn't want to admit it yet. She'd been acting strange, sure, but not in the typical ways you hear about. It wasn't late nights at the office or sudden changes in appearance. No, Emily was smarter than that, more calculating. What she did was more subtle, more insidious. It was in the way she suddenly cared about things she never gave a damn about before, checking the gym schedule religiously but never seeming to sweat, keeping her nails meticulously done when she never cared about them before, bringing home expensive wine but drinking it alone, and the way she had started treating me like I was just another piece of furniture in the house, a thing, not a person. That night, the night everything unraveled, I was supposed to meet my brother for dinner, but he canceled last minute, so I went home early. I walked in through the back door, quiet, expecting to hear the hum of the TV, maybe find Emily scrolling on her phone. Instead, I heard laughter, but not just any laughter, hers soft and sweet in a way I hadn't heard in a long time. And then his deep, familiar voice, a voice I knew almost as well as my own. I froze just outside the living room, hidden by the wall. My heart didn't race, it stopped. I didn't need to see them to know the way their voices went together, easy, effortless. The way Emily's tone softened when she spoke to him. It wasn't how she spoke to friends. It wasn't even how she spoke to me anymore. I took one step forward, and the floor creaked beneath me. Silence. Then hurried movement, a rustle of fabric, a sharp whisper. I walked in, and there they were, Emily, standing near the couch, her sweater slightly askew, her hair a little too perfect for a night at home, and him, sitting there like he belonged, like he had any right, Lisa's husband, my brother-in-law, Mark. Emily's face changed in an instant, not guilt, not fear, but annoyance. "Oh my God, Aaron, don't sneak up on people like that," she snapped. "Sneak up on people in my own damn house?" I didn't look at her. I looked at Mark. His leg bounced, his fingers drumming against his knee, but he forced a smirk, leaning back like this was just another casual evening. "Didn't expect you home yet," he said, stretching his arms out. No apologies. No excuses. Just that. Something in my chest twisted, not just rage, but betrayal. I wasn't the jealous type, never had been. But I wasn't an idiot either. "You two having fun?" My voice came out steadier than I expected. Emily scoffed, rolling her eyes like I was being ridiculous, like I was inconveniencing her. "We were just talking," she said. Mark grinned, like this was some inside joke. "Yeah, just catching up, man." I stared at him, waiting, daring him to say more. He didn't. Emily folded her arms. "Geez, Aaron, don't look at me like that. You're being weird." "Weird?" I turned my gaze back to her, really looking at her, the way her hands twitched at her sides, the way she shifted slightly, like she wasn't sure whether to step forward or bolt. Something was there, something real. I could feel it like a weight in the air. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, barely glancing at it before my stomach dropped. "Lisa," it read. "Hey, just wanted to say thanks for allowing Emily and my husband to have their fun." My grip tightened around the phone. Emily's eyes flicked to the screen. She saw it, and for the first time that night, she hesitated. I didn't say anything, not yet. I just looked at her, looked at him. Mark shifted uncomfortably, the smirk on his face flickering like a bad signal. "Lisa's crazy, man, you know that," he said. I ignored him. Emily was the one I wanted to hear from. Nothing. Not a single damn word. A slow burn started in my chest. So I said, my voice steady, almost conversational. "Lisa's lying." Emily sighed, like I was exhausting her. "Aaron, come on. She's lying." I repeated, sharper this time. "She's lying." Emily's lips pressed together, a flicker of something in her eyes. Annoyance, frustration, not guilt. "She's exaggerating." "Exaggerating?" I laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. Okay, then call her, I said. Emily's brows furrowed. What? Call Lisa right now. Put her on speaker. Ask her what she meant. Emily scoffed. Jesus, Aaron, I'm not doing this. I'm not entertaining her paranoia. Just because... I blinked. Because I'm your husband? Silence. Mark stood up, rubbing a hand over his jaw. Look, man, you're overthinking this. Lisa's been on one lately. I wasn't talking to you, Mark. Mark stopped. Emily's eyes darted between us before she let out a short, humorless laugh. Oh my God! She muttered under her breath, then tilted her head at me, eyes narrowing. Her whole posture shifted into something defensive. You really think I'd be stupid enough to cheat on you with Mark? I didn't answer because I didn't need to. That question, that exact phrasing, told me everything I needed to know. Not, I didn't cheat. Not, I'd never do that to you. Just that she wouldn't be stupid enough to get caught. A cold, sharp realization settled into my bones. Get out, I said. Emily's brows shot up. Excuse me? You heard me. She let out a bitter laugh. Aaron, this is my house too. You don't get to just. I do, I cut in. Because I pay for it. Because I'm the reason you get to sit on your ass all day, drinking overpriced wine and pretending you have real hobbies. Her mouth snapped shut. I wasn't the type to throw money in her face. I never had been, but right now, I wanted her to choke on it. Mark cleared his throat. Look, I should probably head out. That's a great idea, Mark. I didn't take my eyes off Emily as he grabbed his coat and walked past me, muttering something under his breath. When the door shut behind him, Emily exhaled her hair. You're being ridiculous, she said. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You lied to my face. She scoffed. About what? About everything. Emily threw up her hands. You don't have proof, Aaron. I smiled, cold and sharp. Not yet. And that was the first time I saw real fear in her eyes. Emily wasn't stupid. Reckless, yes. The moment those words left my mouth, not yet, I saw something flicker across her face. It was quick, but I caught it, a calculation, a shift. She knew I was going to dig, and now she had to decide whether to come clean or double down. She chose the worst possible option. Emily let out a breath, forcing her shoulders to relax. Then, in a move so bold I almost placed a hand on my chest, tilting her head in that way she used to when she wanted something. Aaron, she murmured, her voice low, soft, dangerous. You're spiraling. You need to calm down. I laughed right in her face. Calm down? Calm down when my wife had just been sitting in my living room with my sister's husband, acting like I was the problem? I stepped back, letting her hand fall away. No, I said simply. What I need is the truth. Emily sighed, rolling her eyes like she was dealing with a petulant child. Aaron, there is no truth. Lisa is just paranoid because she and Mark are having problems. She's trying to stir up drama, and you. She jabbed a manicured finger at my chest. Are falling for it like an idiot. She was good. I'll give her that. If I didn't already know better, I might have believed her. The exasperation, the slight shake in her voice, it was an award-winning performance. But here's the thing about Emily, she overplays her hand, and I've been with her long enough to know exactly when she was lying. Okay, I said, nodding slowly. Then unlock your phone. Emily's whole body went still. The change was subtle, too subtle for most people to catch, but I caught it. The slight tightening of her jaw, the shift of her weight from one foot to the other. Aaron, no. I'm not doing this. There it was. Why not? I asked, keeping my voice even. Because I don't have to prove anything to you, Emily said, quieter now. If there's nothing to hide, then there's nothing to worry about. Her lips parted slightly, and for the first time in the entire conversation, she hesitated. And that was all the confirmation I needed. Because if I had accused her of something she hadn't done, She would have thrown that phone at my face without a second thought, just to prove me wrong. Instead, she squared her shoulders, lifted her chin, and said, "Absolutely not." And just like that I knew. I nodded once. Twice. Then, without breaking eye contact, I pulled my own phone from my pocket, scrolled to Lisa's name, and hit call. Emily's whole expression changed in an instant. "Aaron, what the hell are you doing?" I held up a finger, watching her as the phone rang, once, twice, 3 times. "Hey," Lisa answered, her voice clipped. I put her on speaker. "Lisa," I said, still locked on Emily. "Tell me exactly what you meant by that text." There was a brief pause on the other end. Then Lisa let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Oh, so now you care?" Emily's hands curled into fists at her sides. "Lisa, don't start." Lisa cut her off. "Shut the hell up, Emily." And that was when things really got interesting. The moment those words left Lisa's mouth, Emily's entire demeanor shifted. Gone was the forced calm, the faux exasperation. Now she was pissed. She took a step forward, eyes blazing. "Lisa, don't you dare." "Oh, shut up." Lisa's voice crackled through the speaker, sharp and ice cold. "You don't get to talk right now, not after what you did." Emily sucked in a breath, nostrils flaring, but I spoke before she could launch into whatever twisted excuse she was forming. "What exactly did she do, Lisa?" Another pause. A breath. Then, "You want the whole truth?" Lisa's voice laced with something bitter, something dark. "Fine. Here it is. Your wife has been screwing my husband for months." Silence. Real, solid, suffocating silence. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I just let the words settle into my bones, waiting for Emily's reaction. And she did not disappoint. Her face twisted into something ugly, something furious. "Lisa, you're such a pathetic, jealous little..." "Jealous?" Lisa practically shrieked. "Oh, that's rich coming from you. What exactly am I supposed to be jealous of, Emily?" "Huh! The fact that my husband can't keep it in his pants, or the fact that you've been throwing yourself at him like some desperate little..." "Lisa, shut the hell up!" Emily snapped, but it was too late. I'd heard enough. And Lisa wasn't done. "You really think I wouldn't figure it out?" She spat. "You really think I wouldn't notice the sudden work trips, the unexplained charges on our credit card, or how Mark suddenly started locking his damn phone?" Emily's jaw clenched so tight, I thought her teeth might crack. Lisa laughed, but there was no humor in it, only disgust. "You know what the worst part is?" she continued, voice shaking. "It wasn't just the affair, it was how smug you were about it. How you'd sit across from me at dinner, smiling in my face, knowing damn well you were screwing my husband behind my back." Emily crossed her arms, jaw set, refusing to look at me, refusing to acknowledge a single word of it. So I asked the only question that mattered. "Emily," I said, my voice eerily calm, "is it true?" Nothing. She didn't move, didn't blink. Then, slowly, she turned her head toward me and said, "No. No, I swear it's not true. Not. Lisa is lying." Just one single flimsy, meaningless word. That's when I knew. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even scared. She was just mad that she got caught. I turned off the call and slid my phone into my pocket. Then, with the coldest, calmest voice I had ever used in my entire life, I said, "Get out of my house." Emily's lips parted slightly, but I didn't give her a chance to speak. I took a step forward, my voice dropping lower. "I don't care where you go. I don't care who you call, but you are not spending another night under this roof." She let out a sharp, bitter laugh, shaking her head. "You're seriously kicking me out over Lisa's lies?" I took another step. "I'm kicking you out because I hate the sight of you." That shut her up. For the first time that night, I saw real fear in her eyes. But it was too late for fear. Too late for tears. I wasn't done yet. Not even close. Emily stood there, frozen. For a split second, I thought she might try to beg, try to salvage whatever was left. But then her face twisted into something sharp, something venomous. She wasn't sorry. She was pissed. "You're being so dramatic," she hissed, shaking her head. "You don't even have proof." I laughed, low and humorless. "Proof? Like Lisa's confession? Like Emily's own deflection? Like the way she refused to unlock her phone? Like none of it mattered?" Emily had always been like this. When cornered, when caught, she never admitted, never broke. She just doubled down. I pulled my phone out again and scrolled through my contacts. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Getting proof." Her eyes flicked to the screen as I tapped Mark's name and hit call. Panic, real, raw panic. I saw it flash across her face for the first time. She lunged forward, grabbing my wrist. "Aaron, stop!" I yanked free. Too late. Mark picked up after the second ring. His voice was casual, clueless. "Hey man, what's up?" I didn't say a word. I just put him on speaker and waited. Emily went pale. Mark must have sensed something was off because his voice shifted. "Hello?" Still, I didn't speak. But Emily did. She lunged for the phone, trying to snatch it out of my hand. "Hang up, Mark." And that was the moment I won. Mark sucked in a sharp breath. "Emily." I smiled, cold, calculated, cruel. "Hey, Mark," I said finally, my voice calm. "I'm standing here with my wife who just tried to rip my phone out of my hand the second I called you. Any idea why that is?" Silence. Then, the dumbest thing Mark could have possibly said. "What did Lisa tell you?" Emily exhaled sharply, shoving both hands into her hair, like she could physically pull herself out of this. I turned the speaker off and lifted the phone back to my ear. "Meet me," I said. Mark hesitated. "What?" "You heard me. You and me. Now face to face." Mark let out a slow, uneasy breath. "Aaron, I don't think that's a good." "I'm not asking." Emily's nails dug into her arms. "Aaron, don't." I cut her a look that could have shattered glass. She clamped her mouth shut. Mark sighed. I named a place, hung up, and slid my phone back into my pocket. Then, finally, I looked at Emily, really looked at her. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't even defensive. She was scared. Because she knew exactly what I was going to do next, and this time, she couldn't stop me. I didn't say another word to Emily. Didn't give her another second of my time. I just grabbed my keys and walked out, leaving her standing there in the wreckage of her own mess. She didn't try to stop me. What could she say? What excuse could possibly fix this? The drive to meet Mark felt like a slow burn in my chest. I could feel the rage building, twisting into something sharp, but I kept my hands steady on the wheel, kept my breathing even. I wasn't going there to fight. I was going there to end this. Mark was already at the diner when I arrived, sitting in a booth near the back. He looked up when I walked in, his face tight, his hands wrapped around a cup of coffee like it was the only thing keeping them steady. I slid into the seat across from him, leaning back, arms crossed. I wanted him to squirm. He did. I didn't speak. My voice was calm, almost conversational. Mark swallowed, shifting in his seat. I tilted my head slightly. "How long?" He hesitated. I smiled. "Lie to me, and I'll make sure Lisa knows every single detail." He exhaled sharply, running a hand down his face. 6 months. 6 months. I felt something tighten in my chest. I had expected weeks, a mistake, a moment of weakness, not a full-blown second relationship. Mark must have seen the shift in my expression because he rushed to explain. "It wasn't." He hesitated. "It wasn't supposed to happen." I let out a low, humorless laugh. "Oh, you accidentally tripped and landed in my wife's lap for 6 months in a row?" Mark winced. I leaned in. "Who started it?" More hesitation, then reluctantly. "Emily." "Of course," I said. "Of course it was her. She was never the type to be tempted." She was the temptation. Mark rubbed a hand over his jaw. She said you weren't paying attention to her anymore. That she felt like a roommate instead of a wife. And Lisa? He exhaled, shaking his head. Lisa and I weren't in a good place. She knew that. Oh, she knew. Emily was many things: selfish, manipulative, a liar. But stupid? No. She knew exactly what she was doing. I sat back, letting his words settle. Mark cleared his throat. Look, man, I know I messed up, and I know there's nothing I can say to fix it. But I swear I never meant to. He fell silent. I glanced at my watch, considering my next words carefully. Then I looked up and smiled. You have 24 hours to tell Lisa yourself, I said, or I will. Mark's face drained of color. Aaron, come on, man, she'll. 24 hours, I repeated. And trust me, Mark, you do not want me to be the one to tell her. He swallowed hard, nodding once, his whole body tense. I stood up. This conversation was over. I had what I needed. And Emily? She had no idea what was coming next. When I got back home, Emily was sitting at the kitchen island, a half-empty glass of wine in front of her. The bottle sat beside it, my bottle, the expensive one I'd been saving. She wasn't crying. She wasn't even pretending to be sad. She was just waiting. Waiting to see what I'd do. I shut the door behind me, tossed my keys onto the counter, and leaned against the wall. I wanted to watch her squirm. She took a slow sip of wine, tilting her head. Well? I almost laughed. She actually thought she still had control over this. I talked to Mark. She blinked just once, and I stepped forward. And he told me everything. For a second, just a second, something flickered in her eyes. Realization. She knew she'd lost. Still, she put the glass down carefully and exhaled through her nose. And what do you want me to say? I stared at her. The truth. Emily scoffed, shaking her head. The truth? Aaron, you've already decided what the truth is. It doesn't matter what I say. Try me. She gave me a long, unreadable look, then finally spoke. I don't regret it. I let out a slow breath, nodding to myself. Of course you don't. She didn't flinch. I was miserable, Aaron. Good, I said simply. I hope you were. That threw her off. She expected me to argue, to beg, to ask what I did wrong. I wasn't giving her that satisfaction. She shook her head, like I was being childish. We weren't happy. I raised an eyebrow. You weren't happy? She rolled her eyes. You weren't either. I took another step toward her, watching her carefully. Then why didn't you leave? She opened her mouth, then closed it. Because we both knew why. Because leaving meant losing the house, the lifestyle, the comfort of knowing I'd always be there. It meant facing the consequences of her choices instead of hiding behind them. And Emily never did anything unless it benefited her. I sighed, running a hand down my face. You know what the worst part is? She didn't answer. I leaned down, placing my hands on the counter so I was at a level with her. You didn't just betray me, I said quietly. You didn't just destroy our marriage. She swallowed. You dragged Lisa into this. You sat across from her at dinner, smiling, laughing, knowing exactly what you were doing to her. To me. Emily's jaw tightened. Mark is just as guilty as I am. Oh, trust me, I said, standing back up. I know. She tilted her head, eyeing me carefully. What did you do? I smiled, and I made sure it was the kind of smile that sent chills down her spine. I gave him 24 hours to tell Lisa before I do. Emily's face finally changed. Ain't you? I held up a hand. Save it. I grabbed my keys again, turning for the door. Where are you going? She asked. I didn't answer. She didn't deserve one. I didn't go far. I just drove. No music, no distractions, just the low hum of the engine and the weight of everything that had unraveled in the last few hours. The truth was, I wasn't angry anymore. I was past that. The fury had burned itself out, leaving something colder, something sharper in its place. I was calculating now. Because Emily wasn't getting away with this. By the time I pulled back into the driveway, I had a plan. A ruthless, surgical kind of revenge. Not loud, not messy, just devastating. And she had no idea. Inside, Emily was exactly where I left her, perched on that kitchen stool like a queen on a throne she didn't deserve. The wine bottle was empty now, and so was her expression. She had finally realized something. She didn't have control over this anymore. I shut the door behind me, tossing my keys onto the counter. She barely looked up. "Aaron," she started. I held up a hand. "Don't." She sighed, rubbing her temples. I stopped talking. Her mouth snapped shut. I walked over to the counter, opened the drawer, and pulled out the folder. Emily stiffened. "What's that?" I slid it across the counter. "Divorce papers." Her breath hitched. "Good," I said. She blinked down at the folder, her fingers twitching at her sides. "You already had these?" I smiled. "No, I had them drawn up the second I left the house." That rattled her. Not just the speed of it, but the certainty, the way I didn't hesitate, the way I didn't even give her a chance to fight for this. Emily wet her lips, choosing her words carefully. "You're being impulsive." I tilted my head. "Impulsive?" "No." "You want to know what's impulsive?" She didn't answer. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "Throwing away a 10-year marriage for 6 months of sneaking around like a cheap soap opera character." Her jaw clenched. I hit a nerve. "Good." She swallowed, her eyes darting to the papers. "Aaron, I don't want a divorce." I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "Yeah, that's funny, because I don't give a damn what you want." Eileen's face hardened. And there she was. The real Emily. Not the nervous, fidgeting woman trying to control the situation. Not the guilty wife trying to find the right words. Just the selfish, manipulative, lying woman who got caught. Her voice dropped into something cold. "You really think you're going to win this, don't you?" I smiled, slow, cruel, final. "I don't think, Emily." I tapped the folder. "I know." The first time that night, she looked afraid. Emily's fingers twitched toward the folder, but she didn't touch it. Instead, she squared her shoulders, lifted her chin, and gave me that look, the one she used whenever she thought she still had the upper hand. "You're making a mistake," she said slowly, like I was too stupid to realize it myself. I almost laughed. "Am I?" I asked, tilting my head. "Explain it to me, then. Enlighten me." She exhaled sharply through her nose, crossing her arms. "Aaron, think about this. A divorce isn't going to just affect me. It's going to affect you too, lawyers, splitting assets, the house. You really want to drag this out over what?" "Over what?" I repeated, letting the words settle between us. She blinked just once, then I leaned in, lowering my voice so she had to really listen. "Over the fact that you crawled into my bed every night for 6 months, knowing you had another man's hands on you earlier that day." Emily's throat bobbed. That got to her, but she wasn't done yet. Not even close. She inhaled, steadied herself, then smirked like this was some game, like she still thought she could win. "You know," she murmured, tapping a manicure nail against the folder. "I could fight this." I didn't react. She leaned in, her voice soft, almost mocking. "The house is half mine, Aaron. So is the money. You really think you're walking away from this with everything?" There it was, the real Emily. The ugly, selfish, ruthless version of the woman I had married. I smiled, slow, sharp, deadly. "Funny," I said, stepping back. "Mark said the same thing." Her face fell, and that was the moment I saw it click into place. The realization. She had spent the entire night under arrest, thinking I would cry, beg, or ask what I had done wrong. Instead, I had moved in silence, and she had no idea what I had already set in motion. I walked to the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, and took my time twisting the cap off. Then I turned to her, voice light, casual, cruel. I gave him 24 hours to tell Lisa, I said. I took a sip of water. Guess what he did? Emily froze. I leaned back against the counter, watching her very, very closely. I'll give you a hint, I said. Lisa isn't speaking to him anymore, but she is speaking to a divorce lawyer. Emily sucked in a breath. Aaron. I kept going, letting the words cut deep. And Mark? I let out a low chuckle. Well, he's in a hotel right now, panicking because his entire life just burned to the ground. Silence. I could see her mind racing, trying to find a way out, trying to figure out how to salvage herself. So I took the final shot. You should probably text him, I said, my voice almost gentle. See if he still wants you now that he has nothing left to lose. And that was the moment Emily shattered. Her mask finally cracked. For the first time all night, I saw something real flash across her face, pure, undeniable panic. She tried to school her expression, but it was too late. I had already seen it. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She wasn't afraid of the marriage ending. She was afraid of being left with nothing. Her lips parted, like she wanted to say something, an excuse, a plea, anything. But what was there left to say? I let the silence stretch between us, let her feel the weight of what she had done. Then, slowly, I leaned against the counter and exhaled, letting all the anger, all the need for vengeance settle into something colder. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to argue. I was going to end this in a way she would never forget. I picked up the divorce papers, flipped through them, and then slid them toward her. You're going to sign these, I said, my voice calm, controlled. Emily didn't move. I met her eyes, held them. You're going to sign them, because if you don't, I will make sure that every single person in your life knows exactly what you did. Your friends, your family, hell, even your boss. Her jaw clenched. I didn't let her finish. I will take you for everything, Emily. My voice never wavered. Not once. You think you're walking away with half? No. You'll be lucky if you walk away with your dignity. I saw her crumble in real time. She wasn't used to this, me being the one in control. Emily had spent years perfecting the art of manipulation, always staying one step ahead. But not this time. This time, I was already at the finish line. She swallowed, her hands tightening into fists. You wouldn't do that. I smiled. Try me. Her breath hitched. Because she knew. She knew that I meant it. And then, finally, she broke. Emily snatched the pen off the counter and signed. The moment the ink hit the paper, something inside me unclenched. It was over. Really over. I grabbed the folder and tucked it under my arm, heading for the door. Emily stood there, silent. Frozen in place, like a statue. Right before I walked out, I turned back to her one last time. You threw this away, I said simply. Not me. Then I walked out, shutting the door behind me. And I didn't look back.